All right, this is Steve Renfro again. We're here again today with basketball coach Arthur Haynes, who coached in Moss Point for a long time. And we've already done Arthur Haynes the first part, and this will be the second part. I think last time we got all the way up to high school, Moss Point High School basketball coaching. So I thought we'd start there and be interested to know how you came to be the head basketball coach at Moss Point. Did you come after Coach Russell? How did that work?
No, it was two coaches between that, and it was Coach Owens, and then we had another coach right after Coach Russell came up from North Mississippi, and I fell in after Coach Owens had the team over there.
Okay, so how did you eventually become head coach?
Well, before that, me becoming the head coach, when Coach Russell left, I went over to the field where Coach Holmes was the athletic director. And I approached him and he asked me, he said, "What can I do for you?" He called me Big Cat, you know. So he asked me that, and then I asked him, I said, Coach Holmes, I said, "How about consider me for coaching the boys basketball at the high school?" And he looked at me and he said, "Art," he said, "if it was up to me, I'd give it you that job right now." He said, "But I don't hire." He said, "Mr. Bullock is the one that say so."
He was the superintendent of schools at the time?
He was superintendent of school. And at that point, I was kind of hacked off because of the way they had treated me in junior high and calling my games. And it was no black coach in basketball up and down the coast other than Orange. And they had just, promoted me to it. So when he told me that, I said, in fact, Coach Orange wasn't the coach. And I would have been the only black head basketball coach on the coast. So at that point, I told him, when he said, "Go to Mr. Bullock," no, he said he wasn't hiring. And he didn't give me nothing else. He didn't tell me what, about going to Mr. Bullock or nothing like that. So I got kind of angry. I guess I was a little hot-headed in a way. And I told him, I said, "I'm quitting." I said, "I'm quitting because there's no future for a black head coach, being a basketball coach or anywhere up and down the coast." And he said, he said, no, don't quit. Don't quit. He said, "You're doing too good of a job to quit coaching." But at that point, when he told me that, I was ready to get out of it. And he said, "Do you want me to go talk to Mr. Bullock?" And I looked at him and I said, "No." I said, "I'm a man. I can go talk to Mr. Bullock myself." So I left the field and went up and talked to Mr. Bullock. And Mr. Bullock, when I walked in the office, he said, "Coach," he said, "how's it going?" I said, "Yeah." "How's it going, Mr. Bullock?" He said, "What are you doing over here?" I said, "I'm looking for a job." He said, "You got a job?" And I said, "No." I said, "High school job." And I said, "I came over to see if you would consider hiring me as a basketball coach." And he said, "I'm hiring. I'm going to hire somebody with experience, with a master's degree." And, he gave me all of that. So now I know which way it was cooking right then, I wasn't going to get the job. So he kept talking, and we was talking, and he said, I don't remember what he's saying, but anyway, I know what I said. He said, when he said experience, I knew I didn't have no experience. So that cut me right there. So I told Mr. Bullock, I said, I don't have no experience, and I don't know where I can get no experience. And I said, if you don't give me any chance, and you know what I've been doing, in the system, I said, I'll never get a chance if that's what it's going to be. And so we kept talking, and looked like Mr. Bullock was getting kind of, pissed off. And he pulled out a cigarette and he started shaking. And he came out with the thing, said, just because you asking for the job don't mean that you're going to get it, that I'm going to give it to you. And I said, Mr. Bullock, I said, I asked you to consider me for the job. And that just set everything off then, but it ended up with, he said, give me an application. And I said, Mr. Bullock, why should I fill out an application for the job when I already have one here? And I said, with the experience I got, I said, you already know about it. So it broke off, and he was getting hot. And he said, well, that was the last thing he said. Fill it out. And I didn't feel like I had to fill one out. So I went back across I come from the high school there. Mr. Hollis was the principal. So when I got in the gym, Mr. Hollis was on the PA system. It was fourth block, and that was my off period. Coach Haynes, come to the office now. Come to the office now. So I went up to the office, and Mr. Hollis said, you've been over to the high school, haven't you? So I guess Mr. Bullock had called over there. I said, yeah. And he said, Haynes, he said, I told you about that temper. So he said, what did Mr. Bullock say? He said, I said, put in an application for the job. He said, you going to put in for it? I said, no. And he said, why? I said, because I got an application over there already. Why should I have to put in an application for a job? And he already know, school already know. So everybody else, that they were moving up to the high school, they didn't have to put no application in. It was just like, hey, you got the job up here. So he said, you going to put the application in? I said, no. So that was it. So I worked out there for 9 years. And
You worked at Creo for 9 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mr. Hollis was the principal at Creo.
Mr. Hollis was the principal, and then Mr. Hewitt.
At Creo.
Yeah. Mr. Hewitt was after Mr. Hollis.
Right.
Mr. Hewitt. So it went on, and so the next time the job came over, Orange was the assistant. But I didn't know if they were going to hire Orange or not. So I went over and talked to Mr. Bullock again. And this time he didn't say nothing about no application. And so I went in and I asked him, had he hired anybody? He said, no. He said, I'm I'm looking. I said, well, will you consider me for the job? And he said, I'll talk to you later. So, like, it raised my hope a little bit, that he might give me a job this time. So Coach Orange was there. And no sooner than I walked out the door, Coach Orange came up to me and he said, what did he say? What did he say? I just said, he said he'd consider me for the job later. But all the time, he had told Coach Owens he was going to give him the job. But see, Coach Owens didn't tell me. So all the summer went by, and I'm waiting, I'm looking. So finally one day I was in Pascagoula, and I mentioned to somebody that Coach Owens knew that, and I said, I said, that city job is open at the high school, it's still on. He said, Coach, Coach Owens got that job. I said, oh, okay. But see, I could go with that because Coach Owens was the assistant. Yeah. And it was his next step up for the job.
Right.
So this went on, and I'm still working at Ed Mayo and with Coach Beasley. And they moved Coach Beasley up to the high school for system football and head track coach. So that left me. So I was sitting up, I was contemplating on asking Coach Miller, to let me take football. But he beat me to the punch. He called me up and he said, Coach Haynes. I said, yeah. He said, I would like for you to take the football team. He said, what you think about it? I said, Coach Miller. I said, I was thinking about calling you and asking you the same thing. And he said, well, would you coach football? I said, yes. And he said, I got one question to ask you. He said, would you give football the same time and effort that you give basketball? And I told him, I said, Coach, I said, if I take over something, I said, I'm not taking it over to half step in it. And he said, that's what I want to hear. So I coached football out there for basketball for 3 more years. So one evening I came in and the phone was ringing in the PE building. If you ever been to Ed Mayo, you know the PE building. And so I was just getting through with a PE class and I picked the phone up and it said, Coach Haynes. I said, yeah. He said, do you want the job coaching basketball at the high school? And I said, Coach Owens is the coach. And he said an explicit word, like, do you want this job at the high school?
Who called you?
Coach Miller.
Coach Miller called you.
Yeah, Coach Miller's there now.
I got it.
I said, yes. He said, you got it. So my first question was, do I have to fill out an application for it? He said, you know what he said?
Yeah.
You got the job. And I said, okay. So
this must have been about 1975, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
Is that when it was?
Yeah. I was at high school for 21 years. And so I told him, I said, Coach Miller, I said, I would love to have spring training, And he said, what you gonna have spring training for? I said, Coach, I said, all the rest of the schools having spring training. And he said, okay. He said, but this is the rule. He said, if a kid is out for one sport, he can't participate in that sport until it's over. But see, it's a trick. That was a trick question. That was a trick then, because at the end of track at junior high, Coach Miller would bring a bus over and pick up everybody that wanted to go out for spring football. And if he saw a kid that says he didn't know if he wanted to play, he said, come out, just come over there anyway, blah, 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 blah. So now all the athletes are where? In football.
Football. Mm-hmm.
So the only one that's left out there is the kids that couldn't walk and chew and pick up gum. So I told him I would like to have basketball. And then he gave me the rules, and I said, okay. So I went over to, in that conversation too, I asked him, I said, well, can I play AAU during the summer? And he asked me, what you playing AAU for? He said, that's illegal. Then I said, coach, I said, if it's illegal, I said, you need to stop all the rest of these schools from playing. Biloxi, Pascagoula, and all of those schools had spring football, basketball. They were playing in AAU all the summer.
Explain to me what AAU was. Or what is AAU?
Amateur athletics. That's where the coach really couldn't coach the guys, but your team is playing games all that summer. You could get somebody to coach your team, but you couldn't coach that team. But your boys would be playing basketball all that summer.
Awesome.
So when he told me, he said it was illegal. Then I told him, I said, you need to stop all the rest of school from doing it, because he could get anything done. He was the man. So he said, all right. So to have spring training, all the athletes are where? Football. Now, I go to the junior high, and I said, anybody that want to try for the team, you need to come over to the gym, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. I went to Magnolia, I did the same thing. So now all the athletes that can walk and shoot is over there. So I had a lot of kids that said, coach, I can't dribble. I said, just come to practice. I can't shoot, I can't rebound. I said, just come to practice. And I said, when I got them together, I told them, I got the 2 junior highs, and then I went up in the high school, and I walked the halls, and everybody that was just walking the halls with any height or anything like that, I told them to come out for me. Coach, I can't do nothing. I can rebound. I said, well, you come out there. So when I got them together, I made this to them. I said, regardless of whether you could walk, shoot, dribble, or anything, I said, I'm going to let you stay out here. I said, I'm not going to cut you. I said, but I'm going to require you to do this. I'm going to require you to go to class. I'm going to require you to get your lesson. Good conduct in basketball. I said, if you do those 4 things for me, I said, you won't have time for nothing else. So I said, because I'm going to be here. So I started practicing just like that was my team. And I decided, I said, if the guys come out from football and come out here, that's going to be just like icing on the cake. I said, because I'm going to prepare you just like they're not coming. And I said, when I bake this cake, I said, if the footballs come out here, it's my icing, like that. So that's where I started working. So my first encounter with Coach Miller on that was James Harris was out for track. Coach Beasley. So I looked up and he came through the back door. And I said, James, I said, what are you doing here? He said, Coach, I'm coming out for basketball. I said, no. I said, you can't come out for basketball. I said, the rule is that you're going to have to stay out until track season is over. And he said, I'm not going out for track. I said, well, do this then. I said, you can come up here every evening and sit in the bleachers and watch. And I said, when track is over, I said, then you'll know about, what to do. So he would come in there every evening and sit down. So by him being one of the main people on the track, I think he ran distant or something like that. Coach Beasley went to Coach Miller and told him that I had James Harris up there practicing basketball. So Coach Miller called me up at the school again. It was my second call. And he said, Haynes, he said, I thought I told you not to let athletes come out if they didn't quit. I said, no athlete is out here playing, practicing. But see, he didn't ask me what was James Harris doing every day. They had told him that he was practicing basketball, but they had never come in there to see what he was doing in the gym. So he went into a rage, like, I'll close that down. If that happened, I'll close the whole thing down and it won't be no basketball. And he was cursing, right? So when he started cursing, I just took the phone and bam, slammed it down. And if you know those old phones, when you drop it, it start ringing, right? So when I hit that phone down, bam. And when I went out the front door of that PE building, you could still hear it. Ying, 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 ying. So he called back and I answered the phone. He said, Haynes, he said, as long as you're working for me, he said, you better not never hang that phone up on me again. I said, I'm a man. If I do something wrong, tell me. I said, in the same breath, I said, you tell me the right way to do it. Now, you said Harris was up at the gym practicing. And I asked you who told you that. And you said, never mind who told me. He said, he's up there practicing. I said, he's not practicing. That's when he went in his race. And I said, as long as I'm working for you. I said, don't ever curse me again. Then he said, I wasn't cursing you. I was cursing at you. I said, well, you don't have to curse at me. I said, just let me know. And I said, Harris is up the gym, but he's not practicing. He's sitting down in the gym watching practice. He said, well, I was told different. I said, well, that's it right there. So that was my first encounter with football and basketball, right there, crossing each other. So I started working in the gym. I was working on my master's up at in Hattiesburg up there. And when he gave me the job, like my spring practice, I was still going to it. And then one of my buddies told somebody else that Haynes will never make it over to that gym over there. He'll never be a basketball coach over that gym. So he got the job, but he wasn't going to make it. That put a spark in me too. So I regret it now. I stopped going to school. And Renfro, I'll tell you this. It was never a day between that time and I finished that I wasn't in the gym every day. Every day. And I just started working. So that's the way I started building the team. So all of those kids that I was telling you about was skinny. I worked them every day in the summer. Not going on no vacation. When that time came, I was in the gym. So I would make it one time and I would never change that time. So that no kid could ever say that I thought you was going to practice at this time right here. You're going to practice at that time right there.
Same time every day. Huh?
Saturdays, 9 o'clock. Sundays, 2:30. From 2:30 until 5. That would give them time to go to church and do whatever they had to do. Then I would let them back off if they had to go to church that evening. But never no conflict,
Right.
And if one called me up and said, Coach, I had blah, this and blah, that right there. Okay, I respected that, So kids coming in, they wasn't late. They was coming and working every day. So a bunch of the guys that played basketball and they went to Moss Point across the summer, when I started, they would come in the gym and they would look and they'd say, Coach, how come you got the boy in here? He can't do nothing. They hit at the ball here and it might bounce over there. But what I was doing, I said, you're going to always finish. I said, you're not going to hit the ball and it bounce down there, then you go back and get in line. I said, when you miss the ball, you go back to the back of the line and start with another group. So no matter how you dribbling it and can't control it, you're going to finish that drill. And so I started working like this and the training that they were going. So now, over a period of time, when school started back and basketball started, them same boys would come to the gym and they would be looking. They said, Coach, I said, yeah. What's that boy that blah blah this and blah blah that right there? I said, they said, oh, like they improved so much, and everybody's in line, they're working and you can't tell he's out there. So every year that would happen. So I was building my program off of kids that wasn't playing basketball.
Weren't playing football.
Wasn't playing football.
Right.
So every year, Coach Miller is getting the best athletes. And the way he was keeping them out there, all them kids that didn't want to play football, but he said, come out there and give it a try. Well, if they came out there and started weightlifting at spring, they was hooked. And they couldn't stop to come to basketball practice because I would always wait at least 2 weeks. Football started so that I wouldn't interfere with kids that was out for football. And in 2 weeks, that kid is out for football. Then I go back beating the bushes and add me another group. So I started adding every group. So now I'm working these boys in the summer every day. When school starts, I'm going weightlifting, box jumping, and all of that. So I had 6th period off, that activity period. Remember, 6th period activity period.
Yep.
But they wouldn't schedule nobody playing basketball for my 6th period. So that was the hookup to keep the boys where? Football. So Coach Miller was saying, if you throw a basketball up and it bounced, they said, whoop, everybody's going to basketball. So I couldn't get my players until if they was in school, I had to wait till after school, which I was supposed to have them scheduled for my 6th period class. And every time I would send a kid up there. He had to hook up in the guidance office too. Well, I had to talk to the parents. The parents don't want him in that. I said, man, this is a class. My 6th period class was given credit just like PE. So if I had a kid up in PE that I saw that needed to be coming out for basketball, I couldn't get him in the 6th period. What I would tell him, they would tell me, said, He got to have this in to graduate. He got to have, I said, put him in a class. I got him in PE. Just switch him around. We can't do that. So, I'm fighting the fight.
Yep.
So now I'm developing these kids, right? After school, sometime at night, I would just stay out to the gym. Kids coming in the gym, I would just let them come and shoot, let them come and play. That was a free period. So now the kids are developing. Now all those skinny kids, you don't know it, but I knew it. I know when a black kid is 16 years old, he start developing muscle mass. Now he could be like that, right there skinny, but once he gets 16, 17 years old, he start maturing, body start maturing. And so now all these kids, and I had in junior high, I worked all that time. You look at them now, and they start looking like athletes. The best story I can tell, I had a kid named Stuart, and he came in the gym, and he was as skinny as all outdoors. Big knees, big feet, and I would have him out there practicing, and I'm watching him, and all the time he's practicing, he's doing his knees and stuff in like that. So one day I asked him, I said, Stuart, I said, what's wrong? He said, Coach, he said, my knees are all crooked, blah, this and blah, that right there. I said, keep working, it's going to happen. But to end that story up, he ended up getting a scholarship at High Point. He developed like that. He just developed. And right now, when we talk, he laughs. But
what's his name?
Stuart. You remember Stuart? I mean, I'm the world's worst when it comes to first name. It's always the last name. Byron Stuart.
Stuart?
Yeah, Byron Stuart.
I got it.
So my kids start developing, and Coach would come up to the gym and see the kids in the gym, and then he started complaining after they get up to 11th, 12th grade. Haynes got all the wideouts and defensive backs up there in the gym and won't let them play. Well, no, I didn't never tell a kid that he couldn't play football. I didn't never tell a kid not to go out until my last year up there. I had 3 kids that had never played no football since junior high. And we was ranked in the state coming back. And these kids came and told me, said, I said, where you guys been? They said, we've been down to field house. I said, what were y'all doing down there? He said, Coach wanted us to play football. And I said, you haven't played no football since junior high. And well, he said, we're going to be starting. I said, hold up. I said, there's no way you're going to be starting football because these kids been out there all of this time playing. I said, it's going to take you a half a year to learn the system. I said, in the other half, if you were playing, it's going to take you developing. And I said, you got one more year of basketball. And I said, basketball is going to be half over when you come out for basketball. Then it's going to take you 2 weeks or more to get in basketball shape, and probably longer than that to learn the system. I said, if you go out for football, don't come back up in here messing my team up. That was those 3. Now, one of them was All-American.
All-American in basketball?
Heard.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I got another story I could tell you about Latero Green.
Yeah,
you know who Latero Green was?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Latero hadn't played no football since he was eighth grade. And so I came in that evening and we was practicing. So I said, where's Green? Now, Green is a senior All-American, averaging something like 30-some points a game.
Oh, yeah.
So he said, Green down there he's playing football. I said, football? I said, keep practicing, because I could leave the gym and my practice would go on with nobody in there. It would go on because I had a thing with my old class that, man, they just wanted to be in charge. And if somebody was doing something wrong, hey, they used to straighten him out. If he didn't do it, they report to me, and they didn't want to be reported to me. So practice is going on. So I go down to the field, and Laterra is lining the ball up to kick. It must have been 100 boys out there on the field. So when I came through the gate, they was on the main field. Looked like everybody took it. The whole field stopped. Everybody saw me but Laterra. He lined the ball up. So when I got to the gate, Coach Miller was out there standing up behind. I said, Laterra. He turned around and looked. I said, what are you doing out here? Coach Miller told me he just wanted me to kick the ball off, and I wouldn't be getting hit or nothing like that. Just kick it off for me. I said, boy, I said, I'm fit to go back to the gym. And I said, if you don't be in the gym when I get back, blah, this, blah, that right there. So he's coming out. So I'm riding in my truck, but when I got to the gym, he's on the floor. Then he tell me the story, Coach Miller said it. I wouldn't be getting hit or nothing like that. I said, boy, do you know that the man on the other team got a man designated to knock your butt out? The kickoff man, that's the first thing. They put a man on him, said, knock him out right there. You talking about you're not going to get hit? I said, you're All-American, you ain't played no football. I said, you go out there and get your knees messed up or something like that. Hey, it's over. So I'm the only two that I ever had. Now, I had a lot of kids that Coach Miller came and talked to me about getting them out for football, and one of them was Ernie Bonds. You know Ernie Bonds?
Yeah.
Ernie Bonds had played for me over the high school. When he was 12 years old, he was big as me. And the reason I can say that is because I told him all to wear a shirt that was taking pictures, and he came there with a T-shirt on. And I said, Bonds, where's your shirt? He said, I'll get him. I said, that's all right. Pulled my shirt off and gave it to him to take pictures. Now, he was 12. Now, he had a bad habit of missing school because his mother stayed in this house, and it was a house for them. So she would get up and go to work, and they would have to get up and go to school. So on my players, I would always check and see who was at school. When that list come around and they'd say, so-and-so is absent. So I would tell Coach Beasley, I said, hold my class, zip. I would go get him. So I would go, I knew where he stayed, I knew the room. So I get there, I go around to the back of the house, and he's laying up in the bed, and I stand up and look at him. And after a while, you can feel somebody looking at you, right? And so he was laying up there, and he, give me that number. And he'll look back, and I'll be, get your clothes on, let's go. Boom, take him to school. That evening, after practice, I said, you got extra sprint. I would run him, and no matter how hard I ran him, he would say, let me do 2 or 3 more quarters. Now, what could I say, So I told Bonds, I said, Bonds, I said, let me tell you something. I said, you're going to play pro football. Now, this is in junior high. He was just that good of an athlete. I said, you're going to play pro football. And I said, you're going to get cut. And he said, why, coach? I said, because you're lazy and won't work. Guess what happened?
What?
I go to the high school in 78. He's a senior. At that time, I had 2 district championship teams over at the high school from junior high. And plus the kid from Magnolia, I wouldn't even tell him. So I go over to the high school, Coach Miller, while I was going down there, helping him out, and he said, Haynes, come here. He said, Haynes, he said, I need Bonds out. We need Bonds out for football. But he wouldn't even talk to Coach Miller. He didn't want to play for Coach Miller. So he said, you got a good, rapport with him. He said, see if you can get him out. So that evening, well, he was, coming and working out for basketball. So I said, Bonds, I said, come here. He said, what, coach? It's always, what, coach? I said, you need to be out for football. I don't want to play football. I don't want to play for that man. I said, you're not playing for that man. I said, you're playing for yourself. I said, you need to go out for football. He said, coach, if you say I need to be out there, okay. He went out. 1 year. And if you can remember, he destroyed everything out there. But at the end of the year, all the coaches was in the office. And, you had to get the best defensive, blah, all that, giving out awards. So I'm standing up in the office in there, and all the rest of the coaches, saying, so and so and so need to get this award. They were voting. And they said, when it came down to the most valuable player, they said, Ernie Bond. And Coach Miller stood up. And he said, ain't no player gonna come out here 1 year and be my most invaluable player. Well, I said, I'd be damned. I said, if I'd have known that, I said, I wouldn't have never told that kid to come out here. I said, you're punishing that kid like that because he came out here 1 year and you're telling everybody that you ain't gonna have no kid to come out here like that. So they voted on somebody else.
Wow. So
to make the story short, and what I told you about Ernie, well, he went on to Mississippi State, drafted by what? The Baltimore Colts. Played 1 year, started 1 year, got cut that summer. Why?
Just like you said.
Just like I said. They wanted him to stay up there and lift weights. He wouldn't do it. Got cut. And he eventually got killed in Atlanta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's sad. So tell me about the championship teams that you had. You guys won the district and
we will always win, and it was a lot of, I won't even go into the undercut stuff that happened, but we would always win. And like my first year over there, tell you about this. My first year over there, I can remember the headlines in the Mississippi Press. On the sports page, they had a big write-up said, Haynes is coming to the high school, coach basketball. And then they told about my success in that. And McKernan, you remember McKernan? He was about 6'10". He was coaching down at Pascagoula.
Yeah.
So they asked McKernan, they was asking different coaches, what you think? So McKernan said, Haynes been down there with the little boys. He's coming up with the big boys now. You see what he's going to do. So I proceeded to beat him by 5 in a row. But my first game in high school, and when I got there, Moss Point was playing D'Iberville, OLV, East Central, and all of those schools, Van Cleve, Long Beach, all those schools like that was feasting on Moss Point. And Moss Point had so much talent over there, man. That Coach Orange would play 5 one period, put another 5 in there, put another 5, and never play his first stringer. And I'm sitting up there, and he didn't want Bonds on the team. Bonds probably one of the best boys over there, but he didn't want him on the team. He had told some guys up in Hattiesburg that he didn't want nothing to do with him because that was Haynes' boy. So okay. So when I get over, OLV is playing Moss Point like they was the Celtics or somebody. You had Van Cleve beating him. You had D'Iberville beating him. You had Long Beach, had all those schools beating him. So I get there. So I had been playing most of these guys. They knew about me in junior high. And I'm playing them. I'm laying them out. I was laying them out, beating them. And then it got where they said, we're not going to play you no more. You run the scores up on people. I said, no. I said, I'm not running scores up on people. I said, so and so and so on, is not playing. I'm playing my second and third stringer. But my second and third stringer was running over me like, crazy. So they said, I'm not going to play you no more. So LV, D'Iberville, Van Cleve, East Central, Loosedale. No, we're not going to play you no more. So now, that left Biloxi, Gulfport, Harrison Central, Laurel, Meridian, all the Big 8 schools would play, but those were the only games I could get, right? So I can remember my first game playing Gulfport. Gulfport had a good team.
Jenkins still there then?
Yeah, Jenkins. Jenkins was there until he retired not too long ago. And I'll tell you what he said later on. I'll tell you what Jenkins said. So my first encounter with Jenkins was at the old gym. And Bonds, Green, Smith. Can you remember Smith that played quarterback from Escatawpa, that white boy?
Oh, yeah.
He was the only boy that would come out because Rockwell and 3 or 4 more guys came out one day and they didn't ever come back because they were told if they played basketball, they didn't have no position on football.
Right.
So I played Gulfport. That was my first encounter with Bert Jenkins. And he had a all-state team, and he came in there. And I'm just getting started with my guys, but I'm beating the schools that I'm supposed to beat. So Jenkins was playing, and like in the old gym, if you on the sideline, you right on the floor, and the other team is about 15 feet from you, and you up here. So center up there was playing. So he was beating me good. So about the end of the third quarter, I knew I couldn't beat him, but I needed these boys to get some experience. So I put my second stringers in there so he wouldn't pull. he kept his first stringers in there, beating up my second stringer. So I kept looking at him, he'll look at me. I look at him, he'll look at me. Knowing that, why don't you put your second stringers in there and develop them? So I said, time out. I said, first stringers, go back in. When I put my first stringer back in, he pulled his first stringers off and put his second stringers in there. So I looked down at him, I said, don't pull them. I said, because one day, I said, I'm going to get you the same way. And I said, I'm going to beat you down just like you beat my second stringers down. That didn't happen that year, right? So every year, every time we got ready to play anywhere, tournaments or anything at Burt Jenkins Christmas Classic, he wanted to play Mouse Point. So we was the homecoming team to him. So he would beat me 5 or 6 times that year, during a year. I said, I just kept working. So eventually, my time came. And I wouldn't play nothing but press, full court the whole while. And if you knew anything about Gulfport's fans, man, they would be screaming and hollering and kicking and going on, like they'd be sitting right up behind me, man, they'd be done, just screaming and hollering. And on that side over there, you had a group, man, that screamed. The gym would always be packed when we played them here and there. So now it's my time. I'm pressing and I'm wearing him out. My first stringer. Well, my first stringer, second stringer, and third stringer was about the same because I didn't have no outstanding ball players. And we started just beating them. So I look back in the stands, instead of all that cheering, they sitting up in the stands like this here. And, I'm steady pressing because that's the defense. And they said, that's it, coach. Just kill them. Just keep pressing and killing them. I look like I said, when the shoe is on the other foot, I say it's different in it. So my first stringer is off on the side of my second stringer still killing. So now we're getting kind of even. I'm coming up, getting Burt Jenkins. Now, you get this. OLV, Long Beach, all of those schools is playing what? Burt Jenkins. Burt Jenkins is beating them down like he was beating me down, but they still playing Burt Jenkins. Now he getting 10, 12 wins off OLV and all the rest of it. Now, his record is way up there. And I'm playing Picayune, Meridian, Hattiesburg, Gulfport, Biloxi. I got nothing but this. So my schedule is getting so hard and won't nobody play. So right after the season is over, I start calling, and everybody I call would say, my schedule is full. I said, how can your schedule be full? I said, you didn't call me? Well, coach, we playing so and so and so, and so now I got to start playing teams out of the state. Louisiana, Pensacola, Mobile. Anybody that would play is school just like mine that got the better team. So now my record is boom. So Burt Jenkins is still a king in South Mississippi. So I started. No matter out of town, I'm still winning. Louisiana, I'm winning. I'm going to Texas, I'm winning in Texas. I'm going to Kentucky, I'm winning in Kentucky. I'm going to Missouri, I'm winning in Missouri. So now all of this is going on, basketball program. So In the late 80s, Moss Point, Gulfport, Biloxi, Harrison Central, Hattiesburg, Meridian, changing the zone where it used to be all up in North Mississippi, Jackson. They're talking about the team from down here. They called me up and wanted to interview me. And they said, Haynes, how long you been there? And I told them, they said, we didn't even know it was a team in Moss Point. We thought it was just football. So much was being placed on football because, Pascagoula, Gulfport, Chris Jackson, and that bunch. Pascagoula had that big team. Moss Point, Laterra, Hattiesburg. So now basketball in Mississippi is what? Is on the uprise. That's because we had put so much work in. So now basketball was being played year round. It didn't have no stipulations, You can just practice year round and then you could be playing game. So guess who steps in? Now football, they had a limit, when they could practice and stuff like that. Mississippi in basketball didn't have no limit. So guess who steps in? My athletic director goes to Jackson, have a meeting with all the athletic directors. Come back and tell me, you got 20 days to practice before the season. You cut it all out. But basketball from Moss Point, it started out, and I'm going to tell you this. My first year, I told you about the Burt Jenkins incident. We played in the South State over at Harrison Central. And in the finals, no, we was playing for third place because I had got beat by Vicksburg. And after the Vicksburg game was over, now we had played Vicksburg in the Christmas Classic because, see, the Christmas Classic in Gulfport, 30 teams from everywhere. I'm talking about teams from everywhere, but we was always matched up with who? Burt Jenkins. So we'll go over there and we'll play 3 games and then, we're out. But now we're up. So the first year, we're in the third team. It's 3 teams going to Jackson. So it was left up to Pascagoula and Moss Point. We was playing to see who was going to go to Jackson. So the night before, we go to the gym, and I'm sitting on the stage, and the girls are playing. I took the boys and girls over there. I wasn't driving the bus. Coach Andrews was driving the bus. That's the only assistant that I ever had. That was a basketball assistant. Everybody else was put up at the spot. So we sitting up, the girls playing. Man, they getting pounced. They're getting pounced by, like Harrison Central had a tough girl team, and they was treating Moss Point just like, Jenkins treated me this time. So the referee was on the floor calling the game. Man, they was letting them pounce Moss Point girl. So I'm getting pissed off. I'm sitting up there. So I tell this particular referee, I said, call the game right. He looked at me and went on. Came back again. I said, call the game right. He looked at me again. So now the game is over. I won't even call his name. I won't call his name. But he was an athletic director in Gulfport. And he and Billy Wayne were just like that. You know what I'm saying? They were good friends. You know, Gulfport and Moss Point rival on. So at the end of the game, Melvin Dodd, you know Melvin Dodd?
Mm-hmm.
Keitha. They was outside. They was raising all kind of hell. Football was still going on, but they was over to the game. All Moss Point was over that night. So I said, when I came out of the game, they was raising hell. And I said, Dot, Keith, come here. I said, y'all get in your car and leave. I said, because I don't want you to get in no trouble, no fight over here. They said, okay, coach, okay. So I gets on the bus and we start. If you coming from Harris Central, you ever been to Harris Central Gym,
Yep.
you come down the road, then you hit that dead and you come straight that way, right?
Yep.
And then you go that way and you get on the road, 45. So I said, Coach Andrews is driving. I look back over and I see this truck just like barreling. I'm talking about flying down through there. I said, somebody clown is coming down the road, Andrews. I said, slow down, because he's gonna try to make this curve. So he get to the bus and he hit brake. Stop. The referee that I told to call the game right, he gets out and come to the window. He says, Haynes on this bus. And Coach Andrews said, yeah, he's on. He pulled the window back. He said, he's over here sitting down. So he come around the bus. Open the bus up. Said, Haynes. I said, yeah. I'm thinking that Dot and them guys that got into a problem, and he's coming to tell me, you know, blah, 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 you need to. So he said, did you holler out on the floor at me to call the game right? It stunned me because I wasn't expecting it. I said, what? I said, what you say? He said, that's all right, because I started to get up, because I was fixing to pole him right there for stopping my bus. So the next morning, I'm thinking about this all night, and we had to play the next day. So I said, that morning, I'm going to the field house to tell Coach Miller about it. So Coach Miller sitting at the desk, smoking his big cigar. So I said, Coach Miller, he said, yeah, and he was laughing because I knew then that Pound, I called the name, well anyway, had called Billy Wayne and told him what happened. So I said, Coach Miller, I said, we had a little problem over there last night. He said, he just laughing his butt off about the fall. He said, what? I said, so-and-so was calling the game last night, and I told him to call the game right. I said, but he stopped the bus and acted like he wanted some confrontation with me. But when I got up, he jumped off the bus real quick and said, that's all right. I said, this is what I want you to do. I said, call over there and make sure he don't call the game tonight. So he said, oh, he laughed. He ain't gonna call no game. I said, Coach Miller, I said, just call over there and make sure that he don't call a game. So we getting ready to play Pascagoula. He was calling the game before, and you know, so he was on the floor. I said, okay, you know, all right, he ain't gonna call the game. So we warmed up, we get ready to go. The two referees is out there on the floor, and all of a sudden, the referee start coming off the floor, and like he was sitting right behind me, you know, and I could see behind me. So no sooner than that referee started coming toward, he got up and started putting his whistle on. I said, well, hold up, what's going on? He said, so-and-so is sick, and we're going to have to get a sub referee in. So now,
So your guy's going to referee.
Yeah, he's going to referee. Now, before the guy even started off the floor, when he turned around and started back, I could see him getting his whistle and stuff, getting ready to go. So I said, hold up. I said, no, this ain't gonna happen. I said, get another referee. Not him, get another referee. Ain't no referee here. Ain't no referee. We got to, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. He got to call again. 30 minutes goes on. We're arguing about him calling the game because I know what the gig was. So finally he said, I said, okay. I said, his integrity is on the line like that, blah, blah. Yeah, coach, you're going to get the call. Now he's over there, right? McKernan is standing up here. So I sit down like this here and I'm kind of looking at him out of the corner of my eye. So when he get to McKernan, he did this right here. He winked at him.
Huh.
I said, nah. So he gets out on the floor and commenced to call fouls on my guys. MacArthur, Green, Bonds, all my, just beep, 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 2 fouls real quick on them. Now the game is still tight. I got to get them out of the game, but I'm playing with second. So get to halftime come. They had 30-some points on free throws.
Huh.
You understand?
Yeah, I do.
We get no fouls, like
right.
fouls or something
right.
like 20 to 3 or 4, like that. No fouls on them. So the game goes on. So Sammy Patterson, Pascagoula, start running by mouthing off at me. And I'm already high. He mouthing off at me about, what they doing. I said, boy, let me tell you something. You better talk to your coach and not me. So when the game is over, they beat us something like 2 or 3 points. That knocked us out from going up to state, knocked everything. So my first year, I'm lucky. I saw Pound, and when he looked at me, I started at him. I was going to get him right there, and they was trying to hold me back. And I was still going after him. So the only person that stopped me was at that time the head athletic director from Pascagoula, was he had played pro football. I can't remember his name. And he came up, he grabbed me and he was holding me. He said, Haynes. He said, don't, spoil your career on some stuff like this. He said, we know what happened. Now that's Pascagoula telling me we know what's happened. So I calmed down. That's the only time I believe that I ever had tears running down my face. But if I could have got hold to him right then, that would have been my coaching career right then, because I was going to do something to him.
Wow. So, Coach, this has been very enjoyable. What I like the best about it is you've given us an inside look of what coaching is really like, and where you compete with a football coach for players and all this that goes on behind the scenes with referees. In the early years growing up in the enterprise and jumping 6'4" before you even really knew what high jumping was all about. So this has been very interesting, and I look forward to sharing this with everybody on our website. I just congratulations again on a career that's just been unmatched, and the fact that your name is on the Moss Point Gymnasium is a tribute to everything you've done in sports. So congratulations.
All right, thank you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.